There we go. Okay. All right. Here we go. Three, two, one. And joining us now, he is the executive director of the Swine Health Information Center. Dr. Paul Sundberg is with us. Dr. Sundberg, great to catch up with you again, sir. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Jesse. Thanks. I appreciate the opportunity. It's always good to visit with you.
Definitely great to visit with you as well. We have plenty to talk about, Dr. Sundberg. I know we were chatting off air a little bit. Quite a few disease concerns globally that we need to talk about, and just kind of catch us up on some of the different diseases, some of the things that we are hearing in the swine herd around the globe right now.
Sure. One of the things that the Swine Health Information Center does is monitor diseases to kind of look over the hill to see what may be coming at us. And so part of that monitoring means looking over around the world and um, assessing the risks as well as understanding what's happening. Right now in Indonesia, everybody talks about African swine fever, but right now in Indonesia, they're having a really significant outbreak of foot and mouth disease. It is rampant there. They're in a big vaccination program to try to get it under control. Of course, Australia, being right there in that hemisphere, is really concerned about that, and and we're watching the progress there. With Australia, they are also concerned about the opportunity for the next mosquito season that's going to be coming for them in their summer. As we go into winter, of course, they go into summer and mosquitoes, and that means Japanese encephalitis virus is another issue that they're thinking about and having to deal with in the coming season. Last year, they had approximately 6% or so of their production that was lost because of Japanese encephalitis virus in pigs. But pigs are also called an amplifying host. And when they get JEV, mosquitoes can feed on the pigs and then they carry that virus to other species. And those other species could include people. They had 40, I think the latest count is they've had 40 human cases of JEV. And on those 40 human cases, they've had 4 deaths. So that's something that we're really concerned about. And we're going to have a symposium at the University of Georgia coming up in a couple of weeks. That'll be international. It'll include Australia. It'll include the U.S. It'll include a lot of experts that will talk about JEV and our preparedness should it get here. That's one thing that again the Swine Health Information Center is focused on and make sure we're prepared for things that may come at us.
Well, I know as well. Watching African swine fever, as you mentioned, you mentioned to me as well a curious disease in Ecuador right now. Well, some folks wondering if that's ASF, Paul.
Yeah, the government there reported an outbreak of swine disease in Ecuador. And according to their reports, they have tested it for classical swine fever, CSF, and for African swine fever, ASF, and it's negative. But we've got to have some better confidence in those test results. The USDA, through international organizations, have offered to Ecuador to do some testing of those samples on Plum Island and to verify that they're negative for African swine fever and for classical swine fever. And right now, we're waiting for those samples to be transferred. They're still sitting in Ecuador waiting to get up to Plum Island for testing. So that's something we're watching very closely with ASF in the Dominican Republic and Haiti on Hispaniola. There's an opportunity for it further spread in the Western Hemisphere here, and that's something that we're all keeping an eye on and working with USDA to make sure that we're hardened as well as we can.
Well, Paul, as well, thinking about biosecurity, let's turn our attention there a little bit. SHIC, I know, has kind of put a focus on the wean to harvest biosecurity, a new initiative out from the Swine Health Information Center here just recently. Tell us a little bit more about what you guys are working on with this research program.
Sure, there's a little bit of background here. One of the other things that SHIC is supposed to be doing is they're supposed to be analyzing animal health data in the US for detection of emerging diseases. It's all about emerging disease. And as we look at the health data, both from the swine disease reporting system, where we have the primary veterinary diagnostics labs reporting their test results every month, we go to some research projects that have been done looking at biosecurity and the effects on finishing floors. And then there was an outbreak of APP, Actinobacillus pleuropneumonia, in the middle of Iowa, and we did investigations on the outbreak there. All of those things come together to focus on the role of finishing sites, wean to harvest sites, if you will. It could include nurseries, but the finishing sites as a nidus for infection and continued infection in breeding herds. It's kind of a big cycle. You get an outbreak of a virus on a finishing herd, the breeding herds in the area get the virus, and those breeding herds in the area may move animals that are infected back to the finishers. They'll break again, and it'll just keep going round and round. So this effort is one that we put together to try to break that cycle, to look at biosecurity in that wean to finish market and wean to market system and phase, and try to break the cycle of disease transmission. It includes looking at the sites, and biosecurity on the sites means biocontainment, which if you get a disease, if you get an outbreak of something, you want to keep it on there instead of share it. And it includes bioexclusion, which I think a lot of people think about biosecurity as bioexclusion. It's keeping things off your farm. And then the other part, a really important part of this, is transportation biosecurity. The trucks and the truck washes and the decontamination of the trucks and their opportunity to move things from first points of concentration like markets back to the farm as the marketing cycle keeps going. So we're trying to look at all of those, and the important thing here, the real key, is cost effectiveness and being able to actually implement what those recommendations could be.
Well, Paul, as well, thinking about biosecurity, moving into the winter months here with our pig herds, we think about the pig herd getting a little bit smaller according to the latest quarterly hogs and pigs report here in the U.S., but we want to take care of that pig herd no matter how big or small it may be. Any other thoughts that producers just need to think about, remember here, biosecurity wise, as we head into the winter months ahead as things start to cool down across the country?
Sure. I think probably one of the most important things to keep in consideration as far as biosecurity goes coming into winter months, of course, everybody's concerned about PRRS and PED, and there are plenty of other things to be concerned about. You're going to review those procedures and those steps through veterinarian, but the two things I think. One is it's hard to do those things in the right way every day. And your biosecurity program is only as good as your weakest time of trying to implement it. So it takes a real effort to keep that going in a strong level. And that's something that you just have to have commitment to get done. The other thing is what's going on around you. I think one of the most important things that producers can do, talk with their veterinarians and talk with their producers about what's happening in their area, because that's an early warning system. That very well may be an early warning system for your farm of something's going on over here. What is it? And what do I have to do to make sure that I do the best I can do to take care of it on my farm? That's the kind of thing that regional area communication, I think. And then remember, you've got biosecurity practices. They've got to be done right. They've got to be done right 24/7 every day of the year.
Well, Paul, great stuff as always. Anything else we haven't mentioned today that you want to mention before we run out of time?
I think that one of the things we're looking at is the report, the Swine Health Information Center report for 2022, which I'm working on. It's coming up, and that'll be available at the end of the year. But also always looking ahead to next year, always looking ahead to what we need to do differently next year, what we need to keep doing, what we need to do differently. And if anybody has any input, any ideas, things that we should be focusing on, paying attention to, swinehealth.org website has my address, my email address, my telephone number. Swinehealth.org is a place to go with a lot of information on there. But I'm really interested in ideas from the countryside of what should SHIC be doing in the next 12 months.
Well, again, that website, swinehealth.org. And as always, we appreciate the time and insight with that executive director of the Swine Health Information Center, Dr. Paul Sundberg. Appreciate it, sir. Enjoyed the chat as always, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thanks, Jesse. It's good to visit with you.